welcome at your desk with today's topic, executives on the move to Switzerland. My name is Friederike Ruch, and I am the one now discussing with you the topic about the executives and what Switzerland makes us so attractive. Before we start, I do have two administrative matters. One is on the right-hand side, you see in the box these slides. You can download them now while we have the presentation. And the other thing, which is actually even more important, the opportunity or possibility for you to ask any kind of questions you may have to that topic. You will have to put them down in the box of questions, and then when I'm finished with the first slides from our side to that topic, I will answer any question there is. And in case you don't find the time to write them now, then just send us an email and then we can come back to you later. So why do people like to move to Switzerland? We found lots of different surveys about it and lots of lists about reasons why people move to Switzerland. And here we, in the end, put down the 10 usually said or most often said reasons. One is definitely about employment and compensation, like employment-wise, the work opportunities in Switzerland, as well as we see then later on a separate slide as well, that compensation is in average quite high compared to other countries. As the second point, we found that the standard of life and the quality of life, and there as well we have a different slide then in a second, where you can see how that has been considered. This is something which often will be said, that Switzerland, you have everything you need, and it's a high quality also, again, compared to other countries. Our environment is quite international. We are, I would say, a multicultural population here. You will find, I think, almost any language spoken on the street if you go in the cities, or also be on the countryside. So we are multicultural, and we are, I would say, also quite an open country to different nationalities and different cultures. One thing also that if you speak to companies when they ask whether they would like to set up their business or legal entity in Switzerland, or even put their headquarters in Switzerland, then one of the things usually given as an answer is that we are in the middle of Europe. We are very tightly connected to the other countries. We have a great transportation system which actually works, quite punctual. The connections are very good, and airport-wise also works quite smoothly compared to other countries. Safety is definitely also one of the criteria. If you think about moving to another country, then you see that Switzerland, basically you can raise your kids here without any problems. They can still play on the street, and you don't have to fear that they might get kidnapped or there might be any kind of crimes involved. So safety is definitely one also which is quite important. Stability and environment and cleanness is also always used as one of the topics why someone may move to Switzerland, and what they think of is a benefit in the country. Our education system is quite well established, and there's a wide range of education you can find from the kindergarten part up to then high school, university. Our healthcare and social security system is also quite well established. We were able now to see that in COVID-19 in the phase that definitely it was working quite well. And we are even now looking at the couple of newer statistics at when it's about the vaccination. We are also quite in front of other countries. Here is an report or survey where it was asked about the quality of life, and in the index they looked at purchasing power, safety, healthcare, cost of living, which is quite high. This is not something where you can't say that is not true. Property prices, traffic commute time, pollution and climate. This was all considered in that rank, and there is Switzerland at the second place. Whereas at the safety index, we are actually even a bit higher. We are at the first place. Cleanness and health, here again, where you see Switzerland is on the third rank of cleanest countries in the world. And in regard to health, we found a statement where they also say that Switzerland is on the second place. First place, it was Norway. So we are quite on the top always when it comes to all these factors. And here we found a statement about compensation. You may also know and had the discussions most likely with your staff and with the expat you were or you asked to bring over to Switzerland. Cost of living is quite high if you look at rent and everything else. And an average expat package is also quite substantial, comparing it as well to other countries. And we also found a report about the education where we are apparently, when asking expats, Switzerland is ranking at one of the best countries for learning, which is quite good for Switzerland. So these are all the reasons why Switzerland is so attractive. And now looking at our topic about executives on the move to Switzerland. So how are executives in the end in Switzerland employed? And there are basically three different types of employments we see. One is that they are just employed with a local employment contract in Switzerland for an unlimited period. This is, for example, you find as a company one of the CEOs or CMOs or whatever, and you just employ him and provide him with a local employment contract. What also still quite often happens, because there are Swiss companies are quite connected to other countries and are globally quite active, that people will be assigned on the executive level, maybe because they had an executive position in a different country already, and then they do want to move to Switzerland. However, this is just for a couple of years, and then they will go to a different country. And with the assignment, there are a couple of reasons why you would do that. One of the main parts might be about Social Security and continuation then in the system, retirement system or benefit system they had been before, so that there is no change to that. And then in addition, we do have a specialty, which is rather than in regard to or coming basically from the immigration point of view, which is called management transfer. This is something where from an immigration perspective, you have a bit of easier procedure in case somebody had worked already on a management position abroad for the same company, and then is being transferred to Switzerland again on a management position for a limited period. And the limited period can only be up to 4 years. Now, seeing these 3 different types of employment, we have to look a bit closer, I think, about the legal aspects. One is definitely also about compensation and work opportunities, and there it also goes into the labor law and the management liability matter. Labor law in Switzerland is, compared to other countries, I still would say employer friendly, and usually you can hire somebody, and if you are not feeling okay with the employment, you do think it's now maybe the time to actually go different ways, then you can part without any huge fear of having a court law coming up. You just can actually terminate the contract without any big issue. Also, in regard to management liability, that is still a matter, and companies take out insurances about it. But compared to other countries, there again, it's the focus regarding liabilities is still towards the companies and not as much as to the management, compared really to other countries where a manager can be claimed for anything the company is doing more quickly than in Switzerland. Immigration-wise, we are comparing there again to other countries. We are not the country where we have the at least difficult situation. Our process is quite bureaucratic. There are lots of things we need to fulfill, and it's also not that we can get a work permit within a couple of days only. However, if we are talking about the group of executives, then definitely there are situations where we can get quite easily a work permit for the individual. Like I said before, in regard to the management transfer, which is an easy provision where no job search, for example, has to be provided. You just have to justify that that individual is important and had worked before in a management position and will do so when working in Switzerland. And it is within the same company. Usually the process takes between 6 weeks to 12 weeks, depending a bit on the canton as well as on the company. Otherwise, also for executives, if you can't use that management transfer position, so somebody is coming completely anew to that position, new to the company itself, then in principle, you would need to do a job search for about 3 months. Now, executives definitely you won't find through the unemployment agency, at least usually not. So there is a possibility also, instead of going the normal or through the normal channels like the posting and job advertisement at the unemployment agency, as well as in the different platforms there, you can use a headhunter instead. And then providing from the headhunter the confirmation that you were not able to find anybody else, but that individual, which is now a non-EU EFTA national, you can just hire, and basically the authority look the confirmation from the headhunter equivalent to the one where you placed advertisements in the different platforms, as well as through the unemployment agency. So if you do want to bring in the one or the other non-EU EFTA nationals, there are possibilities. What I maybe have to add is where we at least have in practice a couple of discussions usually, is about the family reunification. And this is mainly about the spouse as well as the dependent children. And dependent children is basically only a child up to 18 years. Anything beyond it is, even the child is still dependent, because the parents still most likely financing everything, but from an immigration perspective, we view that individual as independent. And for those children, we do have an issue, because we won't get a permit for them unless they actually study here in Switzerland or take up their own job or do whatever. And there's a separate reason in the end why we could bring in them to Switzerland. We had now in the COVID situation a couple of situations where kids had been studying abroad, and then due to COVID restrictions, we were not able to get those children back into the country. Now, we are seeing that most likely COVID-19 we somehow have coming towards the end of that situation. However, there might be a different thing than next year as well, seeing also in regard to vaccinations and whatever, and we have to be careful what will happen then next year as well. And we might end up having there also then people maybe not being able just to enter whenever they want. We also, in regard to family reunification, have sometimes the issue about parents not being able just to move to Switzerland, as well as that even somebody is only coming for 2 years to Switzerland, and he is, for example, an American, his wife is American as well. Then the wife has, if they move to Zurich, has to go to a language school in Switzerland and to learn or get a A1 certificate in German for being able to stay in Switzerland. This is based on that new integration law we have. So that is something where we also have a couple of discussions. Taxes is definitely something which is an advantage to Switzerland. We have compared, and we look at that in a second on a different slide, our taxes or tax rates and the tax level is quite low. Even we do tax also the wealth or the assets, but still this is not severely. And if we then also see that capital gains will usually not be taxed, Switzerland clearly is still one of the I would say tax-wise seen quite a good country. However, there are still countries which have a lower tax rate. But if we look at our neighboring countries, then definitely that is they are much higher than we are. Social Security wise and healthcare, that is something which is quite expensive compared to the other countries. However, if you also then see what the benefits are and the outcome is, then you also have to see that this is quite good and people feel quite well secured. And here there is that slide I was talking, seeing what the tax rates in comparison are in other countries, and there we see Switzerland is with about 18%, and looking at France, Germany, Austria, Italy, they are much higher than we are. Now you also be aware most likely that there is a difference in taxation even in Switzerland, in our small country. So it really matters in the end in which canton, and not only the canton but also the commune in the end where you live. And from a tax point of view, that makes quite a difference. And we did run 3 different calculations just for Zurich, Geneva, and Zug, to just give you an idea as well about the cost part as well as the deductions. And if you look at the Zurich calculation, which is on the left-hand side, basically if somebody earns 300,000 Swiss francs, then there are all the deductions for Social Security as well as pension fund, unemployment insurance, accident insurance, as well as daily sickness insurance. And if you look in the middle line, then you see that the taxes, the income tax deducted from the employee is about 25% of the 300,000, which actually gets then us to a net salary of 190,796. So basically 64% of his gross salary he still has in his pocket. Compared now to Geneva, there you see the taxation is about 5% higher than Zurich. That also means then that from a net salary perspective, we are then at a lower rate. What you don't find in that slide is the health insurance premiums. This is something which comes on top of it. And here Zug, where most likely you also saw that it has the best result, which is true. Here the individual basically gets 72% out of his gross salary. So in total, the employee has a deduction of 28%, which is then income tax as well as Social Security contributions. What you can see is Social Security is quite high because basically or here you have to be insured or pay contributions up to the last Swiss francs. Whereas if you compare it to other countries, the Social Security contributions are usually much lower because there are ceilings in place, as well as in some countries the employer is taking a much higher portion than the employee. And if you look on the right hand side, you see the total cost for the employer, which in the end adds up to the 300,000 base salary. As an employer, you have to consider about 80,000 on top of it as additional cost for the employee. And now just looking at Social Security and insurance premiums, you have to pay for the individual, which is also compared to other countries actually quite good. And here we put down a slide where you can see in Switzerland where the different tax rates are or how the taxation looks like. When we look at somebody married, both are working, 2 kids, and a gross income of about 250,000 Swiss francs, then on that map you can see the darker red it gets, the higher the taxation rate is, and the darker green it gets, the lowest the taxation is. What you have to see is that in that slide only the federal tax is involved, so it's not the complete taxation. This is basically the overview about the executives on the move to Switzerland and all the reasons why maybe executives also like to move to Switzerland. And we would have now time to actually answer questions from your side. But up to now, there is actually no question at all from your side. So I still give you another minute to see whether there is something else coming in. And maybe in between, I will tell you what you can expect from us in the next couple of weeks. There's one thing, our next online seminar, which takes place on the 16th of June, which is about business travel in Switzerland, the tax, social security, and immigration aspects. It's a topic which we are on a daily basis constantly being involved in, companies really trying to see and find a solution for the future. And then our next webinar is actually tomorrow. It's about all the legal aspects around management transfer, but which is held then in the end in German. And if you look on our website, you will also find, in regard to a business traveler, a checkup tool where you can look at and find in the end an assessment to all the business traveler cases you may have and you need an answer to. And then last but not least, we will issue our Global Mobility Journal. The first volume will be issued quite soon. We are at basically at the last stages for getting it ready and be sent out. So in case you're interested on it and you do want the first copy for free, then just go on the website and you can get it there. Okay, still no questions from your side, which I'm happy to, but still, in case you do have a question then later on, then just drop us an email and we're happy to answer that. Otherwise, I just wish you a great day. Hopefully we will have a bit of better weather in the next few days, and a great week ahead. Take care and stay safe.